I gotta say, these Mannon's Minutes can get real controversial, but honestly, they're the perfect place to clear up the wild misconceptions and flat out nonsense that pop up in the community from time to time. And the Gardnerian community? Oh, we're having one of those moments again. Every now and then we hit a crossroads where folks start debating something that really never used to be confusing. Lately, one particular debate has been bubbling up. Is Gardnerian witchcraft a fertility cult, a death and resurrection cult, or, as I recently learned, now some are trying to even call it a reincarnation cult? And look, I get it. People evolve. Culture shifts. Modern practitioners bring fresh ideas into the circle. But sometimes in all that creative reinterpretation, the original bones of the tradition get stretched into shapes that were never meant to be. So let's sit down for a minute, breathe, and actually talk about what Gardnerian witchcraft is, what it isn't, and why these newer claims aren't grounded in the historical or ritual reality of the tradition. Spoiler alert, when you peel away the Tumblr posts, the TikTok theories, and whatever creative myth blending people are doing on Discord servers at 3 in the morning, what Gerald Gardner actually presented is, plain and simple, a fertility religion. Not sort of, not in some interpretations. It's central to the blueprint he left behind. Let's break this down. So what did Gardner actually say? Let's start where everything gets clear, the source. When Gerald Gardner wrote about the craft, he did not mince words. He didn't hint, he didn't imply. He outright said a fertility religion. Quote that, a fertility religion, a fertility cult, the worship of the generative forces of nature. All of those direct quotes from Gerald Gardner. This wasn't metaphor. It wasn't poetic language. Gardner wasn't speaking in riddles. He was describing the very foundation of the system he was presenting. He didn't talk about a dying savior god. He didn't lay out a resurrection myth. He didn't frame the tradition around the soul reincarnating over and over again. Sure, reincarnation appears as a belief within the Gardnerian craft, but it is not the central theme. And Gardner never once defines Wicca as a reincarnation cult. If belief alone defines a cultist, then Buddhism, Hinduism, and half the world's magical traditions would suddenly be the same religion. What Gardner actually points toward over and over is life, growth, vitality, creation, and the natural cycles that sustain the world. You have to ignore the man's entire body of work to claim anything else. The rituals tell the story better than any debate. If Gardner's books somehow leave doubt, and they really don't, the ritual structure of the early Book of Shadows clears things up immediately. A tradition reveals its heart through the actions it encodes. Gardner's rituals are dripping with seasonal, agricultural, generative symbolism. The god and goddess move in a dance that reflects planting, growth, maturity, decline, and renewal. In nature, not in the afterlife. Take the Athamian chalice, or cakes and wine, for instance. The symbolic union of goddess and god. That's creation, that's fertility, that's the generative spark. Nothing in that ritual whispers, this is about a dying deity, or this symbolizes a soul reincarnating through lifetimes. This ritual celebrates life making, not life returning. Then there's the Wheel of the Year. Gardner's original model is rooted in agriculture. Seeds planted, sprouts rising, fields ripening, harvest collected, land resting, cycle starting again. This is nature's heartbeat, not a mythic drama about death and resurrection, and not a treatise on the soul's reincarnation cycle. Reincarnation might be a belief Gardnerians hold, but it's not the ritual center of the religion. That's the key distinction. The early high priestesses back this up, and here's where things get airtight. The women who helped shape and refine the early craft all described Wicca the same way. Doreen Valiente said, the old fertility religion. Patricia Crowther said, the worship of nature's fertility through the union of God and goddess. Eleanor Bone emphasized the celebration of Earth's renewing forces. Not one of them, not once, calls Gardnerian craft a death cult, a resurrection cult, or a reincarnation cult. And these women were not shy. If someone got something fundamentally wrong, they corrected it. And the absence of correction here says everything. Where did death and resurrection come from anyway? This one's actually quite easy. As modern Wicca grew, it blended with a ton of other influences. Jungian psychology, neo-pagan mystery traditions, goddess spirituality, Celtic myth, ceremonial magic, and modern mythic storytelling. People love a dying and rising hero. It's a common motif throughout world mythology, so it slid into modern witchcraft interpretations naturally, but it came from outside Gardnerian tradition, not inside it. It's fine to incorporate it into your personal practice, but it's not the foundation of Gardnerian Wicca. So where did the whole idea of a reincarnation cult come from? This one is newer, but it's popping up more and more. It comes from a misunderstanding of the word cult. In historical terms, cult doesn't mean belief system. It means ritual focus. It refers to what a group gathers to worship, enact, and celebrate. Gardnerians believe in reincarnation, yes, but reincarnation isn't what we gather to perform, reenact, or ritualize. There is no ritual of the soul entering a new body, seasonal rebirth of the individual spirit ceremony. Mythic reenactment of the soul cycle, reincarnation, is a belief, not the heartbeat of the rites. You can have beliefs without them defining your cultus. Gardnerian ritual celebrates nature, life, polarity, fertility, the land, the cycles that sustain the world. That is the cultus. That is the center. That is the core identity of the tradition. Reincarnation, part of the worldview, but not the point of the religion. So why try to redefine it? Because modern witches often prefer worldviews that feel less gendered, less rooted in polarity, more universal, more aligned with spiritual beliefs like reincarnation. And those desires are valid and understandable. But personal preference does not rewrite historical foundations. Trying to turn Gardnerian craft into a death cult, a resurrection cult, or now a reincarnation cult doesn't honor tradition. It muddies it. If someone wants a non-polarity, reincarnation-centered system, that's perfectly fine. But that's not Gardnerian witchcraft. That's a new path inspired by it. Why does all this even matter? This isn't about gatekeeping, it's about honesty. A tradition has meaning because of what it was built upon. You can adapt anything, but you can't pretend it was always something it wasn't. Gardnerian witchcraft is seasonal, cyclical, earth-based, life-affirming, sexually symbolic, polarity-driven, fertility-centered, not resurrection-centered, not reincarnation-centered, fertility-centered. That's not an opinion. That's the structure, the symbolism, the ritual core, and the historical record. So when someone tries to claim Gardnerian witchcraft is actually a death and resurrection religion, or now that it's actually a reincarnation cult, remember this. Beliefs may float around the edges. Interpretations may evolve, but the cultus, the ritual center, stays the same. And at the end of the day, Gardner's system is what it is. A fertility religion woven from celebration, nature, growth, and the cycles that sustain life. That's the heart of it. That's what makes it powerful, and that's what makes it Gardnerian.